Well, the U.S. East Coast is digging out from a monster storm that dumped more than 30 inches of snow in some places last weekend. Estimates of how much productivity and how much business were lost are just coming in. Mila Sega has our report.
Across much of the East Coast this weekend, a thick blanket of snow. Thousands of businesses shut down, people unable to work, many unable to shop, like this tourist on her first visit to New York City.
We are trying to have shopping, but almost everything is closed. Everything is wide. Nobody here, no taxi, nothing.
Preliminary estimates suggest the storm may have taken as much as $3 billion out of the U.S. economy. Hardest hit, according to Planalytics, a firm that studies the impact of weather on businesses, was retail.
Anything with a cash register is the best way to think of this, is what was hit the hardest.
On Skype, Planalytics President Scott Bernhardt tells VOA the blizzard probably delayed travel plans and purchases. And for some, it's business that will not come back.
A simple one is something like going to a restaurant. If you're unable to make it to the restaurant on Saturday night, you don't go out on Sunday and eat 2 meals, right? That sale is lost.
At Wall Street Deli in the heart of Washington, D.C., the lunchtime crowd is coming back. But deli manager Joanne counts 3 full days of lost revenue.
And also the employee is not happy without no working. I mean, they need money to pay for their mortgage and stuff like that. I mean, 3-day loss is for them too.
Hassan Reza reopened his sandwich store right after the storm. But because most government offices were closed, he said only a handful of customers came in.
Yeah. We opened Monday, but it's very slow. Just very slow.
Thank you, sir. As big storms go, it could have been much worse. But people should not breathe a sigh of relief just yet, says Scott Bernhardt.
Yeah, the winter is not over yet. We still have February and March coming. I'm sorry, but there's still more winter out there, first of all. But second of all, I think we'll be saying, whew, I'm glad that didn't hit on a weekday.
Bernhardt says timing is everything. Had the storm arrived in the middle of the week, analysts say the dollar losses might have been closer to $10 billion. Milar Sega, VOA News, Washington.
Well, today in our business segment, some good news. Africa's growth is expected to grow in 2016. That's according to a United Nations report released late on Tuesday night. For the details, let's turn to Jill Malandrino, our markets reporter, joining us live from New York. Jill?
That's right, Vincent. According to the UN report, Africa's economy is projected to grow 4.4% in 2016, up from 3.7% in 2015. East Africa is expected to show the highest growth at 6.8% in 2016, up from 6.2% in 2015, mainly driven by the increased inflow of foreign direct investment, increased public spending on infrastructure, and growing domestic markets. But this is what I find interesting as we witness Africa transition into a services-driven economy. The report states West Africa will grow 5.2% and 5.3% in 2016 and 17, respectively, driven by economic improvement in Nigeria with an emphasis on non-oil sectors.
Well, Jill, concerns regarding oil dependence is starting to dissipate.
Of course, crude oil prices and production remain a concern, and the report said economic outlook for Africa remains subject to a number of risks and uncertainties, and weaker global growth and weakness in commodity prices are definitely major risks for Africa. But I'm encouraged by what Adam Iharik, Managing Director of Macroeconomic Policy Division at the UN Economic Commission for Africa, said at a press conference following the report that there is optimism that African countries would manage their economies well. Increasing domestic demand coupled with an improving regional business environment and increasing public investment, especially in infrastructure, underpin the set economic growth on the continent, according to the report. Africa's growth will rely on other factors, including improving macroeconomic management, a buoyant service sector, and increasing trade and investment ties with emerging economies. And these factors are also expected to support regional growth in 2017, according to the UN report.
All right, that's something there. It looks like there is, as we mentioned last week, Africa is raring to go, and we might be expecting more things to come out of that continent.
It could be the next tech hotspot. You're absolutely right, Vincent.
You did mention that the next Zuckerberg might actually come out of Africa. Do you think it's all a question of financing?
Financing is certainly going to be in question, but I think what global recognition that Africa is getting is the potential for infrastructure growth, whether it's from manufacturing, building out the infrastructure, and of course tech innovation is tremendous there. The entire country is migrating over to mobile services, and in fact they expect Nigeria in particular to actually supersede the US by 2025 in terms of demographics as well. There is a tremendous amount of growth in Africa, and places like Nigeria and Kenya are certainly in the forefront, and global major companies are certainly taking notice here.
Well, very, very positive, uplifting news. Thank you very much, Jill.
You got it. Thank you, Vincent.
All right, that's Jill Malandrino, is Africa 54's new business correspondent, and be sure to tune in every Wednesday to watch her reports from New York.